You are tuned in to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome Clif High back to the show.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We're off to a good start already.
Yeah.
Clif's work is known globally as the WebBot technology, or predictive future linguistics. And if you're in Italy, that might be linguini. His periodic reports analyze and explore vast amounts of Internet data, which contains thought forms predicting future events. Clif jokingly refers to this as his rickety time machine. There's an excellent article about how all this started and how it works at George Ure's website, www.urbansurvival.com. It's also an excellent website to read on a daily basis. Clif also writes articles in addition to the mind-bending work of drilling down, analyzing, and making sense out of terabytes of data at his website, which is www.halfpasthuman.com, which we'll mention again. So let's not waste a moment and welcome him to the show now. Hey, Clif, welcome back, and how are you?
Doing just fine. We're having a nice little windstorm up here. It's a typical winter in the Northwest with rain crashing down at the rate of probably an inch an hour, that sort of thing. And we just lost the anemometer at Mount Rainier at Camp Muir after recording pretty steady winds over 130 miles an hour.
Wow.
So, yeah, doing all things considered, I'm doing really good.
Well, hopefully you won't blow away during the show.
Yeah, that's also something that I think I would like is to stick around a bit. We're normally pretty good with it, though. We've got one of these 4-inch thick cedar houses, not quite a log home, but sort of a quasi-refined version, and they shed the wind pretty well.
Oh, good, good. How's it? You have a boat too, don't you? I mean, how's that coming along?
Well, I've got a really cool boat, a trimaran, that I've had up to 11.1 knots on GPS and 14 knots, I swear, in a 12-knot wind. And it's just great, but I've had to not go out for a while as I make dagger boards and a new rudder for it. I simply didn't have enough wetted surface in the water to be able to control at the speed I was getting out of it, because the whole boat, I mean, it's a huge boat by dimensional size. I can tell you that it's a 25-foot by 25-foot length overall trimaran with a 14-foot beam, and it sounds tremendously large, but the whole thing weighs, probably with me in it, less than 1,200 pounds. And it's got 168 square feet of sail, so it really wants to move, and I just need more of a rudder to be able to turn it under those conditions.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, it's doing very well and may come in a little, it's certain to be handy whether or not we get any more catastrophic earth kind of conditions. Just the generalized collapse and the lack of oil and the need to go places, it's going to be a really nifty little boat.
Yeah, no question about that. Definitely something that if you're people on the coastline would be wise to have. I heard just before the show from a friend of mine who mentioned that there was a brewing solar eruption that's turning towards the Earth. I didn't have time to check it out before the show, but this is one of the things that you've been tracking in your reports for some time now, isn't it?
Yes, since 1997. That was when I first stumbled on the idea that something is amiss out there in reality land. Because I was hunting for words around SUN, S-U-N, for Stanford University Network, the company name. And I kept coming up with, I thought, in fact, that I'd had an error because I kept, in my logic somewhere, because I kept coming up with thousands of instances of the larger archetype of sun, the great big scary ball in the sky. And it started, and they were all associated with disease and all of these other various negative contexts, and that's when I said, well, basically to hell with Stanford University networks, no offense, but I'm more intrigued with this other thing there.
Interesting. Of course, we know Patrick Gerald is one of the people that is predicting, and Jay Widener also. Many people are saying that the solar maximum is going to be somewhere around 2012 or 2013, and that portends some major shifts on the planet crustally.
At a bare minimum, it'll be, even if we don't get that far, that we have a crust shift. At a bare minimum, we're looking at extremely stressful times and a stress test, if you will, of our modern-day infrastructure. Because the sun, Patrick Gerald's work is based on some discoveries by Maurice Cottrell, among others, relating to the cycles that were tracked way back when by both Egyptian and Mayan and Tibetan civilizations. And the cycles are actually a very complex interweaving of sunspot cycles that reaches out about 13,000 years at the current rate. So we're going to have a completion of the sun cycle that is going to be quite massive. And I understand why, when you read from the NASA releases on the subject, you find so many words that are related contextually to anxiety and fear. They can't help it. It's leaking out in everything they say. And they're actually out there warning people now, get ready for big electrical problems, et cetera, et cetera. But even a little electrical problem from the sun is going to be massive on the infrastructure that's affected. But on the other hand, it could be, staggeringly magnificently horrific at that level, because there's evidence that suns and I don't know why NASA doesn't use this, by the way, to spot suns that have complex planetary structures like ours, but the harmonics of the planets out there relative to the angular momentum that is causing basically the mega sunspot cycle, where basically what happens is the equator of the sun is yanked around faster than the sun's poles by all of us planets out here, and us people doing stuff. We're whizzing around really fast in a particular plate of a plane relative to the sun, and we make the equator go faster than the poles. And every 88 days, the equator laps the poles and winds the magnets inside the sun a little tighter. And every so often, like every 13,000 years, these magnets will wind up to the point where they just can't take it anymore, and they've got to reset. And there is, at the bare minimum, a giant electrical pulse that comes out as the magnetism of the sun resets itself relative to the centrifugal pull of all of the planets. And NASA could use the harmonics that are generated that cause this kind of effect on our sun to look at suns and plot whether they have complex planetary structures around them, based essentially on the amount of angular momentum and the disparate rate of the equator to the pole, which affects the light. In any event, though, we're about to encounter just that sort of thing in a couple of years. Patrick Gerald's work aligns to the December 21st solstice, and I have to agree that the powers that be went to a huge amount of trouble and spent a fortune to align the end of the Mayan calendar to that date. And they further confirmed it by what they did on January 1, the year 2000, when Clinton and all of the grand poobahs of the Western world all congregated in the area in front of the Giza Plateau, and they had some, high and mighty ceremonies there. Again, confirming the calendar and the end date and so on. So, it's going to be really interesting these next couple of years.
No kidding. Well, your report just came out about 18 days ago, your most recent report, on January 25th. So we've had a little bit of time to digest it, and it's clear that, from the last one and this one, that one thing that's becoming prominent is global revolution.
Yes. Yeah.
And then and the diaspora, which you talk about also. Australia is getting hit beyond belief.
Well, it's also affecting a number of other areas. I mean, we're getting another, what do they call it, beast from the east that's going to hit England and go all the way over to Ireland. And that's basically weather from Russia that, you know, instead of hitting Moscow and going over to Siberia, just decided to take a right and go across the top of Europe and smash into the UK. That weather pattern, by the way, is indicative of the same kind of stuff that they theoretically think they saw during the Dalton minimum. So it may be presaying an ice age in the region.
Well, yes, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Well, and I've got anecdotal reports from people that are out sailing around. You know, a lot of people are interested in the fact that I have a crab claw sail on this, and they want to know on my little boat and the pros and cons. So I've been doing some communication with a lot of people that are out and about in boats, and I've had a number of reports from the East Coast that seem to indicate that the Gulf Stream, which used to head over to England and keep it all nice and cozy, is now starting to crash in intermittently in places in the I don't want to say northeast, but you know, south of Boston, and in that area, water that was abnormally warm after, coincidentally, the BP screw up down in the Gulf. Although I don't think it was a screw up, I think it was a by design kind of a deal, and an act of aggression against humanity.
I would agree with you 100% on that. In fact, it's almost impossible to find any major event on the planet that isn't engineered at some level behind our backs without our awareness.
Yeah, boy, these nasty fellows, they're just working their tails off, aren't they?
Yes. Well, we must be getting awfully close to something. I mean, they talk about us waking up too soon, and as if there's a timetable, or that we're not supposed to wake up, and it does appear that there's an attempt to keep us
stupefied.
Zombie. There's a word for it. What is it?
The zombies. SHOMBIES, and it's a blending of sheeple and zombies. And theoretically, it's a sheeple that's dead, and they just don't know it, and they're shuffling around like a zombie.
Well, let's hope that there's hope for those zombies.
Yeah. Well, there is, really. And the data that we've had over the past, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so, has pointed me towards the conclusion that there actually is hope, and it is the hope that the zombies have by proxy through a gradual or general awakening that is